of Jonah. In the sweltering heat of a Ninevite summer, Jonah ben Amittai, a devout prophet of the Lord, sat in the shade of a bustling marketplace. His eyes, weary from the weight of his latest vision, gazed out upon the crowds. The Lord had spoken to him, commissioning him to cry out against the wickedness of Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. But Jonah's heart was heavy with reluctance. He knew the Ninevites to be a ruthless and cruel people, and the thought of entering their city, alone and unarmed, filled him with dread. What's more, he feared that his message would fall on deaf ears, and that the Ninevites would reject his words and harm him. As he sat, weighing his options, a group of sailors, fresh from the docks, stumbled upon him. They were a rough-looking bunch, with sun-scorched skin and salt-crusted hair. One of them, a burly man with a thick beard, approached Jonah. "Hey, you look like a man with a purpose," the sailor said, eyeing Jonah's worn leather satchel. "We're bound for Tarshish. Care to join us?" Jonah's eyes lit up with a mixture of desperation and hope. Tarshish was in the opposite direction of Nineveh, and he saw this as a chance to flee from the Lord's command. "I'll take that as a yes," the sailor said, grinning, as Jonah hastily gathered his belongings. The voyage was rough, with towering waves and howling winds. Jonah, seeking refuge from the storm, descended into the ship's hold, where he collapsed onto a pile of cargo. But the Lord was not so easily escaped. A great tempest arose, threatening to capsize the ship. The sailors, frantic and frightened, cried out to their gods for deliverance. Jonah, realizing that the storm was a direct result of his disobedience, confessed his sin to the sailors. They, awestruck by his words, asked him what they could do to appease the Lord. "Cast me into the sea," Jonah replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The sailors hesitated, but the storm raged on, and they eventually relented. As they tossed Jonah overboard, the sea ceased its raging, and an enormous fish, appointed by the Lord, swallowed him whole. Inside the belly of the fish, Jonah prayed, his voice echoing off the damp walls. He repented of his disobedience and vowed to follow the Lord's command. After 3 days and 3 nights, the fish vomited Jonah onto the shore. The prophet, shaken but renewed, made his way to Nineveh, where he proclaimed the Lord's message to the inhabitants. To his surprise, the Ninevites listened, and they repented of their wicked ways. The Lord, seeing their change of heart, spared the city from destruction. Jonah, though initially reluctant, had become a vessel for the Lord's redemption. And as he walked away from Nineveh, he knew that he would never forget the lesson he learned in the belly of the fish, that obedience, though difficult, is always the best choice.